Freddy changes are finally here. We got some juicy Freddy changes today, so let's quickly go through them, shall we? All opinions will be educated predictions because the PTB isn't actually live yet, and behaviour are notorious for poorly written out patch notes, and not including all of the changes in them. Change. He now has access to dream snares and dream pallets at the same time. That's right guys, if you're like me and adore watching survivors throw fake pallets and getting killed through them, well now we can do it while still actually being useful because we'll have access to the actual useful snares too. Or that's so I thought, because it kinda goes downhill after this I'm afraid. Dream snares now move at 12 meters per second with a cooldown of 5 seconds. They go through walls and upstairs but not off ledges. Now again, I have yet to actually play this since the PTP is not out yet, but what this sounds like is they want the pallets to be a setup ability and then the snares to be some kind of active ability, kind of like Pyramid's attack. However, Freddy doesn't injure with his snares, he only slows down the survivors, and you needed to place your snares in very specific places on tiles to hit the survivors at the right point to slow them down enough to get a hit. That was a main complaint among Freddy players. His anti-loop was so bad that unless you learned every single tile and the optimal place to put the snares, you just wouldn't get the hit. They move now, which means that getting the snares to hit to begin with is going to be harder, and hitting them in the right point on the tile which will slow them enough to get the hit is going to be even harder, sometimes impossible, since you needed to use 2 snares to hit survivors on a lot of loops before, which will be literally impossible to do now because there's a 5-second cooldown, and so far the only buff to snare that we can see in terms of debuffs is it gives the survivor an extra second of hindered. Will this be enough? Hopefully, but we'll have to wait and see. It's also worth noting that this change will actually allow you to slow survivors down who move between tiles, so it seems more like a nerf on tiles and a buff between the Shift W gameplay. Next up, we have a change where the dream snare's interaction with survivors, they will now gain 30 seconds on their sleep meter if they're hit with a dream snare while not in the dream world. I mean, it's better. I think they should just be permanently in the dream world and make that Freddy's thing, because the idea that you need to dick around trying to get someone in the dream world to begin with to start to use your anti-loop is just inherently dumb. And the fact it's only 30 seconds means that if someone got out the dream world, it's going to take you 2 hits of the dream snare to get them into the dream world to begin to have your anti-loop, which might I remind you, they just had to buff Nemesis because he had to hit somebody one time before he got his anti-loop, and his anti-loop is significantly better than Freddy's. Also remember guys, dream snares have a 5-second cooldown now, so assuming that you don't miss a dream snare, that's 10 seconds of cooldown time alone that you have to wait off on top of probably an extra 4 seconds of throwing out the dream snare to begin with, just to get somebody into the dream world to begin to start to use your anti-loop to get a hit. Honestly, with the changes that we're going to discuss later to getting out of the dream world from the survivor side, I think a single dream snare hit would suffice to put someone into the dream world to begin with. New. Dream pallets can be triggered to explode in a geyser of blood. It has a 1.5 second activation time and a 3 meter radius. Sleeping survivors will become injured and awake survivors will be put into the dream state. Honestly, this one's hard to tell what it does without actually using it. Either Freddy can manually trigger them, which means that it basically gave him a C4, but the 1.5 second activation time is really going to make this basically useless versus any good survivors, since the blast radius is only 3 meters and you'll have to kind of preemptively try and blow it up on them, and they'll see that and they'll just run away from the pallet. Or this will be when a survivor drops a pallet, they won't know it's a dream pallet until it blows up 1.5 seconds later, which would probably be more useful. This is one we'll need to see how it properly works in game though before we can fully comment on it. Next up, Freddy can teleport to all generators all the time, even if they're completed. Very good. Now he isn't actively being nerfed as the game goes on. Now, Freddy can also teleport within 12 meters onto any survivor healing in the dream world.
You serious?
I'm sorry, what? Any survivor healing in the dream world can be teleported onto. There is, without a shadow of doubt, no way this is going to make it onto live. I think it's a pretty cool concept, but as someone who mains Sadako and has had their entire kit deleted because survivors are incapable of interacting with a TV for 1 second, I doubt they will ever push this out. In fact, there's probably already a plethora of forum posts complaining about this. If it does stay though, it will make Freddy probably the best hit and run killer by far. Change. Teleport cooldown is now 30 seconds instead of 45 seconds. The teleport can no longer be cancelled. So there goes the teleport mind games, which is a big amount of skill expression for the Freddy. Pretending to teleport onto a generator to misdirect the survivor into another place, and then you try and get them. Also, when someone's on a generator that you know they're on a generator, you pretend to teleport on it, and then it becomes like a 50-50 mind game for the survivor as to whether they're actually going to teleport onto it and whether they should run away, or whether they should stick the generator and hope that he isn't going to teleport onto it. Honestly, even though the cooldown is lower, I think removing it being able to be cancelled overall makes this change a nerf by quite a long way. New. Survivors in the dream world healing will gain killer instinct on them. This will linger for 3 seconds once they stop healing. So you get killer instinct and can teleport onto survivors when they're healing. Basically, don't heal in the dream world. Change. Sleeping survivors can use any alarm clock to wake up. New, after using an alarm clock, it goes on cooldown for 45 seconds, which then it cannot be used. So basically they turned his alarm clocks into 2.0 Sadako TVs. It will be very rare to see survivors naturally enter the dream world because getting out of it will be so easy to do now. So, in conclusion, he has both dream snares and dream pallets. Snares have been reworked into a 5-second cooldown skill shot that hinders for 4 seconds instead of 3 seconds, and add a 50% dream state onto survivors if they're hit when they're not in the dream world. He can teleport to any generator and can see and teleport to healing survivors in the dream world. He can injure with his pallets now somehow, not 100% sure how this will work though. However, survivors can get out the dream world super easily now since they can use any alarm clock, which removes a lot of the time waste if they wanted to get out the dream world. He can no longer cancel his teleport once he's triggering it, entirely removing that mind game, turning the ability into one purely for traversal. The nerfs he's received here are not to be understated. They will have serious ramifications on him as a character, and I'm not sure the changes make up for them, especially the ability to get out the dream world so easily, but we'll have to see it in practice. I'll definitely be trying him out whenever the PTB drops to try and get a feel for it. There were some other changes to other things. You can no longer go blind in Deep Wound now because they've changed the effects, and they changed the prevention of repeating map system to repeating realms instead, so you're not going to be sent to Water Haven for 19 matches in a row anymore. But how are you guys feeling about the upcoming changes? Just to be clear, I don't want these changes to be bad. I'm really hoping I'm wrong. I think a lot of people haven't actually properly understood the nerfs that he's received, or they haven't bothered to read them. Anyway, he is hoping that he isn't complete doo-doo.